Hey, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio, and today I want to check out what I think may be one of the most controversial mixing consoles of all time. This is the Mackie 8 bus. More specifically, it's the Mackie Analog 8 bus, not the later Digital 8 bus. I have a lot of experience with the Mackie 8 bus consoles, having used these back in the 90s in commercial studios where I was an engineer. And also one of the bands I was in years ago had one of these, and we did all of our recording work with a Mackie 8 bus. I just picked up this particular 24-channel version of the Mackie Analog 8 bus console, specifically to make some videos with and because I kind of like these things. And I know a lot of people out there in the forums will say things like they don't have very good headroom, the EQ is very harsh and not very usable, or they don't like the top-mounted jacks, or they don't like the lack of phase reverse on the channel. So I picked this one up to make some videos about it so that you guys can see it in the videos and hear it, and you can make your own decision about this pretty controversial console. In this video, I'm going to highlight the functions and features of the Mackie 8 bus console, and in future videos I'll test it out so you can hear what it sounds like after I get it cleaned up and go through it, make sure everything is functioning properly. So now we're looking at the top of the Mackie 8 bus inline recording console. This thing is really cool. I'm a big fan of these things, so let's take a look at just kind of an overview of what this console offers. This is the 24-channel version of the Mackie 8 bus console, but they did make a 32-channel version, a 16-channel version, as well as the 24E expansion car, which would add another 24 channels to your Mackie 8 bus. Each of these main channels has a main channel, obviously, and it also has a mix B channel. Now, on a lot of inline consoles, they would call this monitor. Mackie called it mix B for some strange reason, but on a lot of consoles, they would call this monitor. And these are for the tape returns coming back from the tape machine, so that you would have independence of your level going to tape and coming back from tape, so that if the guitar player wanted to hear more of his guitar in the headphones, you didn't screw up the level that you had going to the tape machine and overload the tape machine, or maybe not print it loud enough. So overall, you have the 24 main channels with the integrated mix B channels. You've got most of the patching on the top of the console, which some people, again, since this is so controversial, people thought this was a flaw, because dust can get into these jacks when they're top mounted like this. People said the same thing about the Soundcraft Ghost consoles with these top mounted jacks. Now, the subgroup outputs and the tape inputs are actually on the back of the console and not on the top, so not every connection is on the top of the console, but most of them are. And I think that's pretty good. If you've got a small studio and you don't have a lot of patch bays, at least it's easy to get to your patch points on your console for inserting outboard gear and doing anything like that. The Mackie 8 bus does have phantom power, but is switchable in banks of 8. In fact, my Mackie 8 bus here is missing one of the switch caps for the phantom power on channels 1 through 8. So each channel has a mic input, a line input, and a mic line switch between those two, a direct output, which is really useful, and an insert, which these are unbalanced, but these consoles are pretty quiet, and I never noticed any problem in my time using an 8 bus with any kind of noise or ground loops or anything of that nature. Then you've got the trim control, which is the mic or the line gain. Flip switch here swaps the mix B and the main channel, so you can do your final mix down on the big faders instead of like these little mix B or tape return pots. Unusually, Mackie put the auxiliary send section above the EQ, which is different from a lot of consoles. Normally you'd have the input section, then the EQ, and then the aux sends, but on the Mackie 8 bus, they've put the aux sends above the EQ. They have 6 aux sends. Of course, 5 and 6 are only switchable with this shift switch, so you can only access 4 of the aux sends at a time on each channel, though there are 6. Aux Sends 1 and 2 are switchable either post with the button up or pre if you press this button. Auxes 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the same way. They have the shift button to go between 3 and 4, 5, 6, and they have a pre button to go from the standard post. This source button changes the input to these Aux Sends from either the main channel in the up position or the mix B channel, so that you can use the Aux Sends, at least these two, or 3, 4, 5, 6, I guess, since they're a bank of channels. But you can use those from either the channel or mix B with the source switch. The Mackie 8 bus has a pretty extensive EQ with a fully parametric high midband, and then a semi-parametric low midband, and then high and low shelving EQ. You also have the addition of a low cut switch and EQ bypass switch, EQ on and off, I guess. The mix B section on each channel has a pan and a level control, and it also has a EQ switch, so you can actually steal the high and low shelving EQ from the main channel and use it on the mix B channel with that split EQ switch. It also has a source switch, which basically you can either source it from the flip switch like normal, or if you push this down, it sources the mix B from the main channel, so it turns it into another auxiliary send. Each of the channels has mute and solo, its own pan control, and then you have bus assignment routing switches here, including to the left-right mix, and a nice 100mm fader. I'll go into a lot more of the inputs and outputs and connections on this console in future videos, but let's go ahead and look at the master section. You've got your 8 subgroup or bus faders here, as well as assigned switches and solo switches, so you can assign one subgroup to both left and right mono, or into a pair of them in stereo, depending on how you press these buttons. So that's a cool feature. Something like this is really useful for doing things like parallel compression. You can use the subgroup inserts and insert a compressor, and then, you know, blend some of the compressed submix in to your main mix by sending the buses and the main channel simultaneously to the subgroups with the compression, and then to the main left-right mix. You got nice LED meters here for the 8 subgroups and the main.
Here at the top of the master section, you've got your 6 Aux Masters, each with solo, which is a really cool feature.
Next to the Aux Sends master section, you've got the stereo Aux Returns. You've got 1 and 2 Aux Return have a full complement of assigned switches and a balance control, whereas 3 and 4 have different things they can be assigned to. You can still go to the left-right mix, but it's mostly set up for like headphone mixes. They also have solo, and then 5 and 6 Aux Return, they don't have any assignment switches. These are just permanently assigned to the left-right mix, though they do have solo switches. And here's the rest of the master section. You've got the Talkback section with different places you can send the Talkback mic, which is built in down here. You've got the master for the solo there with the famous Rude Solo light. The monitor section with control room and studio. There's a collection of source switches here for the monitor output, so you can select different things, which normally that's going to be your left-right mix or mix B. Then you've got your 2 headphone sections with source switches there, solo, level control. And then your mix B level. This is the master section for the mix B section of the main channels, and that's just a master level, but it can also be assigned to the left-right mix. So in essence, you can use all 24 of your main channels and your mix B channels with those taper turn jacks on the back of the console, and then merge the 2 of them together right here by assigning all of your mix B stuff also to your left-right mix with your main channels. So you can actually have 48 channels. Actually more than that, I guess, if you take into account all the Aux Returns. One of the best things about the Mackie 8 bus consoles are all the inputs and outputs that you have. So I'm going to show you just a brief overview of the master section, input and output panel, and then one of the channels. But keep in mind there are also the tape inputs and the subgroup outputs on the back of the console. So now we're looking at the master patch panel here. So it starts up here, you've got Submaster inserts for all 8 subgroups. Then your Aux Send outputs here, and then main insert. So you've got main insert for something like a cool bus compressor. So you could add like a warm audio bus compressor to this Mackie and get some transformer saturation and some cool bus compression with your analog Mackie. Control room outputs are here. Main mix outputs, mix B output, so it has its own separate output. You've got your 2 headphone outputs here. And then we'll continue down on this side. These are the Aux Returns. So you've got 6 stereo auxiliary returns here, and then a 2-track input, an external input, and then the studio output. On the channels, you've got the mic input and balanced line input, balanced or unbalanced apparently, a direct output, and an insert, which is an unbalanced insert, tip out, ring in. And of course you got a fan power switch for every 8 channels, and you've got a mic line switch here. And then you've got little connections for the little gooseneck lights right here as well. So you've got a pretty full complement of inputs and outputs. And don't forget that you have the triple bus configuration of subgroup outputs on the back of the console. That allows you to send everything to these 8 subgroups instead of using the direct outputs, and it basically, you don't have to repatch because you've got 3 sets of outputs for these 8 subgroups that are on the back of the console. So that was a cool feature because you could just plug everything into your 24 tracks worth of ADAT, and depending on what tracks you had ARB'd, you could record onto those using your subgroups and not have to repatch or use direct outputs. And of course your tape return inputs, the Mix B section inputs, are also on the back of the console. And those have a -10 switch, so they can be used with things like a Tascam MSR16, like the one that I have. But some of the old semi-professional equipment ran at -10. And so the tape returns on the back of the Mackie 8 bus have a switch for -10 if you're using an older machine like my Tascam MSR16 half-inch 16-track analog tape machine. Personally, I'm a pretty big fan of the Mackie analog 8-bus consoles, having used these in a lot of different situations over the years. So I'm excited to make some more videos and actually show you what this sounds like. So make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell icon. That way you don't miss the future videos where we actually test out this Mackie 8-bus analog recording console. It's a great console, in my opinion anyway. You can let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for liking the video, subscribing, and continuing to watch my videos here on the channel. I hope that each and every one of you out there has an excellent and wonderful day, night, evening, weekend, weekday, hour, minute, second, nanosecond, whatever it is you're having. Have a good one. Thanks so much for watching.